This is going to be my story on Dale Earnhardt's death at Daytona in 2001 and the next 3 weeks on the NASCAR Winston Cup circuit. And don't tell me in the comments it's Sprint Cup, because in 2001 it was Winston Cup. And it's going to focus on 2 drivers over the next 3 weeks, and that is, for obvious reasons, Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Kevin Harvick, Dale Earnhardt's replacement in the Richard Childress GM Goodwrench Chevrolet. It was elected, and it's quite common when a driver is tragically killed in a race in NASCAR, that number is not used for a period of at least 1 year. And in my Get to Know Me NASCAR video, I explain my opinion on whether or not the 3 should be in Sprint Cup, but this video is to concentrate on the next 3 weeks after Daytona. The Childress GM Goodwrench cars repainted white, renumbered number 29. I guess they didn't think of using the 0 numbers, 0 or 01. They wanted a number. They took the first, as I understand it, the first available number that did not have a 3 in it. So the circuit goes to Rockingham the next week. Fine track. The trucks are back on it finally. I like that. I always liked the Rock. And they go first before it's interrupted by rain and finished on Monday. Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Ron Hornaday crash on the first lap, and Jr. is out of the race. And Ron Hornaday, who spent some time at DEI in the truck, felt pretty bad because he admitted he caused a wreck, but so be it. I guess Ron Hornaday and Dale Earnhardt Jr. are still friends. They were. Racing accident, so not going to get into that. But Kevin Harvick in the number 29, got some notes here, finished 14th, the first car 1 lap down in his first Winston Cup start. Pretty respectable finish. Childress's idea, let's get him comfortable in the car, get a finish, and they did. And frankly, for your first start, that's a pretty respectable finish. There wasn't any starting parks that day to pad it. First 2 cars out of the race were crashes. And so, that's Rockingham. The next week, the circuit goes to Las Vegas. And Junior finishes 23rd, 1 lap down, but he's the next to last car 1 lap down. So, obviously still feeling the effects. And by the way, I forgot to mention, Rockingham, Steve Park won in the DEI number 1 Pennzoil car. But Las Vegas, Junior 23rd, the next to last car 1 lap down. And then Kevin Harvick finishes 8th on the lead lap. Childress said, hey, we want to get a top 10. They did. Childress's next go was a top 5. The very next week, in fact 6 days later, because this race was run on a Monday, and I was at this race in Atlanta, and quite frankly, I did not want to go. I was a Dale Earnhardt fan, and my heart wasn't in it. But I had tickets. My friend, she couldn't go without me, couldn't get anybody else to. I would have gave the ticket away if somebody else could have went. Had the hotel reservations, because you order them tickets well in advance. Get to Atlanta. Junior is actually running pretty good, but has a flat tire, as I remember, and finishes 15th, 1 lap down. But oh, the finish. Kevin Harvick and Jeff Gordon battling for the win. And if you remember the 2000 version of the same race, Dale Earnhardt and Bobby Labonte battling, and I was at this race too, when they come by me off turn 4, I thought Bobby Labonte had Dale. He didn't. Dale got that run off turn 4 on the outside. But let's get back to 2001. Dale Earnhardt, or Kevin Harvick in the GM Goodwrench 29, white car, kind of plain looking car to be honest with you, and Jeff Gordon are now the combatants. And remember, Harvick is driving the very same car Dale Earnhardt won that race a year before with, plus finished second in the fall race at Atlanta, or the last race of the season back then. So it's a good piece, obviously. And they get to battling. Gordon gets on the inside, Harvick gets on the outside. Coming off 4 for the checkered, we're in the same seats in the Petty Grandstand right down low. Coming off 4 for the checkered, Harvick beats him to the line, and it's on YouTube. The finish, the victory lane ceremonies, and so forth. I think you even see Big Chocolate Myers, who was the gas man on that car at the time. I don't know. I think he runs Childress's Museum now. He's not actively on a pit crew anymore, and I think he has a radio show on one of the satellite feeds. But makes that finish and beats Gordon probably by less than Earnhardt beat Bobby Labonte the year before. And that scene, that made me want to go back to a NASCAR Winston Cup race. I didn't really want to go. I almost said I'd never go to a Winston Cup race again after Dale Earnhardt's death. But then, this was kind of funny. We got back to the hotel. We stayed the night in Atlanta, or in Marietta, north of Atlanta, so we didn't have fight rush hour traffic leaving Atlanta. And we've got the news coverage on from the local Atlanta TV station. And they're talking about the race, and they made a remark that was so true. They said, "You've heard of divine intervention on life's events," or something like that, but that wasn't divine intervention. That was Dale intervention. And I thought that was so true and so good. And then just a little postscript on Dale Jr.'s 2001 season. Postscript on Harvick first. He did win 2 races that year. I think he won at Chicagoland. And then Dale Earnhardt Jr., this is the amazing thing to me, that he's able to do this. When they went back to Daytona, you would wonder if he'd even want to run Daytona again. He goes down there, the 4th of July race, I always called it, although it's now run on the weekend. You remember, it used to be run, if you're old enough, 10 in the morning on the 4th of July. It didn't matter what day it was on. But he goes down there and wins that night race. And I'm actually in the stands of a short track in Indianapolis that night, the Indianapolis Speedrome, and my mom calls me, and it's luckily during a break in the action up there, so most of the time you don't hear the cell phones ring at racetracks, and tells me Dale Jr.'s won that race, and I couldn't believe it. But then other win by Dale Jr. that year was kind of a tragic event too. It was Dover in 2001, which was the first race. Remember, after the 9/11 attacks 2001, they pushed the New Hampshire race back to the day after Thanksgiving. So Dover was the first race after the 9/11 attacks, and Dale Jr. just happened to win it. And there was a big American flag that had been brought by one of the pit crews. I can't remember which one, but they elected to let Dale Jr. carry that flag around in the famous Polish victory lap. That's on YouTube too. If you search 2001 MBNA 400, you can probably find it. But I know this video run a little longer than I thought it would, but this to me is an important event. Now, nobody watches it, it's not important, but to me it is. NASCAR Board Sunday vlog number 4 is now over.